I'm Jill Guy.
And I'm Naomi Guy.
And today we have a very special guest on Why Will No One Date These Guys. What is her name?
I'm Tazmin Smith.
Thank you for saying your last name. I really appreciate that. Did RJ do that on his episode?
I don't think so. RJ doesn't want to be tied to our existence.
Oh my god, we didn't do her intro. Okay, ready? This is your intro.
Okay.
She attends a slightly above average rated Catholic private school here in Arizona, 3 out of 5 stars on Google ratings.
Ouch.
Where she will soon be an alumni along with A.D. Bryant, Emma Stone, and Meghan McCain. She once described herself as flaky because she kept having to reschedule her time on the podcast. And overall, one of my oldest friends, it's Tazmin Smith.
Yay. So glad to be here.
We like breathing on this podcast, Naomi. We want to hyperventilate away from the mic. Naomi, what are we drinking today?
Oh my god, we all need to take a sip. Cheers. Cheers. Oh, that's dreadful.
Interesting. So this is a jalapeno limeade, organic jalapeno limeade, quote, lime juice beverage. It's always concerning when you have to describe a drink as a beverage. I feel that's to cover up defects.
I need to tell the backstory behind this. So I went into Trader Joe's on Tuesday at like 9 a.m. And the woman was checking me out, and I had like muffins and like this. And she was like, "So, are you making margaritas?" And I was like, "Ma'am, it is 9 a.m. in the morning."
The answer was yes, by the way. But
yeah, I definitely was.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this.
It kind of tastes like spicy, like, you know, when you drink like the ginger drinks.
But not in a pleasant way. Like, It's just hot limeade. It's not adding any flavor. It's not doing anything that a lot of, spices or chilies would do.
It's tangy.
It's tangy. But you know what? Now it's a tax deduction.
Yep, perfect. Perfect.
Tangy to tax deduction. Tasmin, we have invited you onto our show today. You are only the second guest in our history because we feel you have a very unique perspective to lend to our podcast. Our podcast, which is allegedly about dating among younger millennials and Zoomers, which I believe you fall in the latter category.
That's you. That's you, bitch.
But yes, you attend a prestigious school
Yes.
up in a prestigious town known as Phoenix, Arizona. And we feel that you can tell us a bit about dating culture within both that school and Catholic communities in general. To be clear, we are not accusing you of being Catholic unless you would like to be accused of being Catholic. Having
not at
been
all.
in the speech and debate circuit in Arizona, I competed alongside a lot of people who went to your schools, and I know, like, for a fact, there were Sikhs and Muslims and other people who attended Brophy and Xavier College Prep, which I'm sure was very weird due to the mandatory mass and general curriculum that revolves around things antithetical to their faith. But, how you doing today?
I'm great, I actually just wanted to insert a little something in there. I think a lot of people, when you reach high school, you kind of start questioning religion a lot more. So I definitely would not say that I'm a Catholic. I'd honestly say that I'm probably...
Were you baptized?
No, I was not.
You and me both. He fucking was.
Why are you baptized?
Because
Why was I I didn't have a choice in the matter.
No, I
Let's
know.
be
But,
clear.
okay, so I was born... The difference between us is I was born in Arizona and he was born in Indiana.
Right.
They force all babies in Indiana to be baptized.
That's not true. And when they were living in Indiana, our parents were still Catholic. And then when they moved here in 98 or 99, they were still, they were questioning their faith. And then they decided to go church shopping, and they found Quakerism. And they found the Tempe
I don't
meeting.
know if this is like a dream I had, but I am 100% sure this is a memory that's stuck with me for a while. I recall when I was very young, we're talking like 4 or 5, they were going church shopping. And I could have even been younger than that. But I have this hazy recollection of us going to a seedy motel somewhere in Phoenix, and there's a snake handling religion of some kind. There's 5 guys in a hotel room just holding snakes.
And that's where the franchise Five Guys comes from.
Right.
The secret is snake meat. I don't know. They don't tell you that in hamburger
for
school.
those who don't understand, we actually met Tazmin through the Quaker meeting, and it's called a meeting, but it's technically a church. That's just the way that they refer to it. Joel and I grew up. Well, he less or so than I did. I spent a lot more time at the Quaker meeting than he did.
I played hooky with the hooligan that I am.
He did. And then I left the Quaker meeting when I was 17. Tazmin, when was you started coming when you were 10, right?
I started coming when I was 7 or 8 because it was right after my little sister was born. Yeah. And then my dad became a member, I think 2 years after we started going. And I wouldn't consider myself a Quaker, but I would, if we had in-person meeting, I would go back.
But you'd still you take on the sort of not the mentality of like equality. And,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
I think
what do Quakers believe in? Maybe for our listeners, remember you've had friends in the past who were like, oh, I thought you were the oatmeal people.
Yeah, we are not Amish. I wanted everyone to know that. I hope I don't dress like an Amish. Maybe that was why they like asked that question.
Was the hat with the buckle on it. I think that threw a lot of people. And the way you said,
horse and buggy, not having proper dental work done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this is my understanding of Quakerism. Obviously, this varies, but basically, Quakers believe in equality in the sense that like we don't have a minister or a pastor or a preacher like preaching to us every Sunday. We all sit in silence, and then the Spirit speaks through us, and we can either share that in the meeting space and kind of break that silence, or just keep it to yourself.
I would say on a more fundamental level, Quakers believe that God's accessible to everyone.
Yes.
You don't need a priest, you don't need a pope to interpret scripture for you. They think anybody can come to conclusions and be a practitioner of the faith without needing hierarchies in place. And that was a really radical idea when Quakerism first started, this idea that religion was accessible to everyone, because, up until I think the 1920s or 30s, Mass was still read in Catholic churches in Latin. And so people all over the world, in places where, England had colonized, were listening. These might be Africans, might be Trinidadans, they might be people from Australia were listening to masses, not only in a language, English, that they probably didn't speak that well, but in a language, Latin, that they definitely didn't speak at all. And so religion was this, like, vast, inscrutable thing that you just kind of had to believe. There's this guy who descended from heaven, and he died for our sins, and all of this other, like, weird symbolism. And, all of a sudden Quakerism is like, not necessarily, hey, we think that everyone has the ability to interpret faith and come to conclusions. And so I would say Quakerism has always had a far more radical tradition backing it up. And throughout history, Quakers themselves have been on the forefront of a lot of movements like abolition. There were a lot of Quaker feminists in the 1920s and 30s, 1960s, a lot of prison abolitionists. Quakers haven't had a great history in all areas, but I think for the most part, if you look at all the religion, Quakerism is probably in the top 10 of least terrible.
I would like to mention that it is a fairly new faith. Started in the 1700s in Pennsylvania. So it's not as old as, obviously, Catholicism. But the reason why we bring up Catholicism is because Tazmin, for her entire life, correct me if I'm wrong, you went to Xavier Prep.
Yes. So actually, starting, I think preschool, I went to a Catholic preschool, or like a nursery. So at a very young age, but obviously like 3, I had no idea.
So you got grape juice and little wafer crackers,
right? All the time. Okay. And then after that, when I turned 5, I went to kindergarten at St. Francis Xavier, which is not. They don't like to call it the feeder school, but they definitely like coach you on how to get into Xavier or Brophy. And that is also a Catholic school. And then now I go to a Catholic high school.
Yeah. Why do you think, or maybe you even have this conversation, were your parents so interested in getting you into a Catholic school? Do they feel the quality of education is higher? Do they think the religious education is important?
It was the quality of education for sure, because I know that Arizona's like 48th on
it's 49th
on spending for public education. So that was definitely a big thing. And it wasn't necessarily like looking for Catholicism or even like Catholic schools. I think they would have been just as open to, I know there's Lutheran schools in the Valley, but I think just out of all of them, they wanted a school that was diverse. And then they wanted just a better education. So I don't think it was necessarily they were seeking Catholicism, but especially because my mom likes to refer to herself as a recovering Catholic. So she definitely...
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so she definitely was not looking for that in particular.
She grew up Catholic. Did your dad grow up Catholic too?
So yeah, my mom grew up Catholic. My dad, I've never really asked him, but I know that my grandparents have never been extremely religious either. I don't think they were like christened or anything like that.
I believe the phrase is Christianed.
Right. I don't think that they have they were ever part of any religion. So I think any religious finding that my dad did was as an adult and by himself. So
okay.
Interesting.
So, Tazmin, you are 17.
Yes.
About to be 18 in September. It is June.
Yeah.
Yay, that's exciting. You can vote. Woo! You can't smoke cigarettes, but you can make big life decisions like joining the military.
Can you buy spray paint at 18?
Yes, you can.
I'm glad you know that off the top of your
And
head.
a ladder.
And a ladder.
You can't buy a ladder if you're under 18.
Yes, I've heard this recently that you cannot buy a ladder unless
That's
you are
strange.
over 18. What are some, just jumping right into it.
Okay,
You're
ready.
a senior. You've had a lot of time at Xavier. You've interacted with brophy boys, you know, because you can only date brophy boys if you go to Xavier.
The brobos.
The bro bros.
There you go.
Oh my
Brobos.
God. The bro bros. Okay, there we go.
Robo Baggins.
What are some difficulties that you face dating as a high schooler that you don't feel like you would have faced as another age group?
Definitely, I think freshman year or as long as before you turn 16 and get your driver's license, not being able to drive is so difficult because
of course,
Xavier and Brophy are commuter schools. Like people will drive up to 30 miles. I mean, I know there was a kid who like years older than me who lived in Sedona and went to school at Brophy. So that was like,
good Lord.
Yeah, you like had a friend.
Yeah,
that
so we'll get
from
into
Cave
that.
Creek every single day.
There are people who will drive from all over. So if you meet someone, as I did, who lives very far away from school, I also live about 12 miles away from school, which takes 30 minutes in the morning. It's difficult not being able to drive because my parents work 40-hour work weeks and they don't want to drive to pick me up or drop me off somewhere at the end of the week. And so I dated someone who lived 40 miles away from me. And that was really difficult as a freshman and as a 15-year-old because I genuinely, like, it was really hard to see each other.
That's literally like doing like long distance.
Yeah.
That's like, because he lived in Cave Creek.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a couple of years since I was last in the Brophy Central High School area, but I attended a number of tournaments up there. And
for speech and debate.
For speech and debate.
What he means.
And yes, I was not an athletic kid. Do not have this mental image in your mind of me, you know, the linebacker on the CPA team. But there's not a lot to do in that area. There's that light rail running down Central. There's like a 10-minute walk away. There's a coffee shop. There's a taco place that's like 15 minutes.
Flower Child or whatever.
I think it might have changed since then, but I'd say we're about like 3 miles out of downtown. So, and then I know for sure we would have half days on Friday. There's always something that you can do. If your parents can't pick you up or if you can't go to a friend's house, there's always something that you can do after school.
You mean like in the Phoenix area, not at your school? Okay.
Not at school, but within a pretty decent 10-minute walk. So
no, I was recently talking to someone about this because obviously it was like growing up here is a lot different than everywhere else because we're such a large, like we're so spread out.
Yes, yeah.
And like people, like you said, like we went to school in Chandler and we had someone, like I knew someone that drove in from Casa Grande every single day. So that was like a good 45 minutes, which we thought was far, but freaking Cave Creek, that's insane.
Sedona.
Yeah, Sedona's crazy too. And I would say that like until you get your license, it's probably extremely hard. Like what I was talking about was essentially the fact that like your life really doesn't start in Arizona until you turn 16, until you can like go and hang out with people, until you can like go and see those people. Cause like for us, for instance, like my friends would hang out and they'd be like, okay, be there at 8. And I was like, I'm going to bed at 8 p.m. What are you guys on? Cocaine? Like that's insane. Like what are you saying? So, and my parents like, they get up really early. They go to bed really early. That's just the way that their schedule works. So like you said, like they didn't want to go out on a Friday night and pick me up at 2 a.m. You were the special child because dad did that for you. But
well, I was nearly arrested that one time.
Don't worry about it. So I think that you're completely right that like your life really doesn't like you can't successfully date someone and have that experience until you can drive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, you know, we've talked a little bit about parenting on this podcast before, but, you know, it kind of goes both ways where a parent not only has to be, you know, a smart individual who can train their kid in the right ways of conduct and how to be an adult, but they also kind of have to be a chaperone if your kid wants to date in high school, which really sucks because, most of the time I don't think they're going to want their kid driving unless their kid has a job. And until at that point, they have to, bring them anywhere. And so I think the parent also then has to be very active in person's dating life. It's much more difficult for a kid to keep anything secret unless they're doing it completely on school grounds.
Joel and I knew someone, and I'm not going to mention any names, but it may have been our brother, that was pursued by a woman in high school, and our dad actually decided to go on the first date with him, her dad. So they sat a few tables over, and I remember being horrified, and I was like so much younger then, and I was like, even I know that's horrifying.
Well, I noticed something that dads do is like when they're at school functions and like kids are hanging out doing stuff, there'll just be like 2 or 3 dads in a corner making comments on their dating life, just being like, so your son is interested in my daughter, eh? He seems like a fine, upstanding individual. Oh, yes, a fine, upstanding individual. Like, honestly, it's the same aesthetic as like rich multi-millionaire oil barons meeting in like wood-paneled rooms to smoke cigars and drink fine beverages and talk about how their stocks are doing on the market. It's a very interesting phenomenon where dads just get together. I don't know if moms do it. It's possible, but yes, I've observed this so many times. Just dads talking about their kids' dating life. It is the weirdest thing, but also kind of cute.
I think another thing kind of piggybacking off of the parenting aspect of when you date in high school is like when you date in high school, if you want to hang out with someone or you want to go to their house, you have to meet their parents and you have to worry about if their parents are going to like you, which I feel like if you're a girl and you're dating someone, it's more intimidating to meet the mother. And then if you're a guy dating someone, it's more intimidating to meet the dad. And when you're older, like in college, say you both don't live at home, you don't have to worry about meeting someone's parents.
That is so not true because now because of COVID, like people are moving back in with their parents. So now you're kind of like, okay, do you live on your own? Do you like live with your parents? Do you live with roommates? You know what I mean? Obviously, you would rather like meet somebody's roommates than their parents because I feel like it brings a new level to the relationship because then you like your mom or dad is like, hey, so how is that girl doing? Like what happened to her? Or like if you decide that you want to be promiscuous and you're bringing a lot of women home, it's like, oh, what's up with this? Like that's really awkward.
I think, though, in the normal context of the world, not during a global pandemic when most people, especially first year as freshmen, as you enter college, I think people are more likely to date more. I don't know why I have that idea in my head, but if you're living in a dorm, which most people their first year have to anyway, you don't go home except for, unless you...
Like holidays,
But, and then if you're dating someone, if you're dating someone, it's all at school, around campus, and you don't really have to go home and meet their parents unless they want you to, which is like a big step.
So, like you mentioned, this kind of piggybacks on the question I'm about to ask you, but like you said, you have to like meet people's parents. When hanging out with them. Do you feel like it was encouraged for your specific situation and the parents that you've met that you had a more traditional role, like as a woman? Did you feel like that was pressured on you because you went to a Catholic school?
I think yes and no. I think some of the teachings that I've had throughout the years at a Catholic school are potentially dangerous, especially to young girls, because it teaches a very specific role of women in the household and women in relationships. But I think my family, since that wasn't really enforced at home, that I don't think that there was, I think the only thing that I can really think of is that in heterosexual relationships, it's the norm for the guy to always make the first move and to always pay for everything. So I think that it wasn't necessarily enforced, but it just was the way that it happened.
Okay.
Here's something that I've encountered. There was a person that I was going on dates with who we had been seeing each other for 3 to 4 weeks, and she relayed a conversation she had with her grandparents. Her grandparents were like, oh, you're seeing someone? And she's like, yeah, he's like this. And they're like, oh, has he given you a promise ring yet?
Oh, God.
What religion did she grow up
Catholic.
in?
Yeah, at least her grandparents were.
Irish Catholic? Like, what?
But yes, is that something that you've seen occur? Has that been asked? Have any of your friends had this experience where the expectation is as soon as you've gone on a date or two, you snatch up that girl, you make sure she's legally obligated to marry you?
I personally haven't seen that at all. I have heard of it being expected, like from girls.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to having sex in high school is like, I need a promise ring before I'm going to have sex with you, which is, I get it, but I also don't at all.
Because it's not even like if you set up that expectation, then they're like, oh, I just have to go out and buy a ring and then I can have sex with this girl. It doesn't have to mean anything.
No. And then I think the other thing is a lot of people, at least now, I'd like to say, because this was my experience, a lot of people are more realistic in high school with dating is because people don't have the mentality of, I want to marry my high school sweetheart. That's just not a thing that people have an idea of anymore as much. So I haven't seen anyone actually give anyone else a promise ring. And I've never expected one either. So there you go.
So something that I want to mention through this is the fact that I have recently seen a lot of people graduate from GCU, which is Grand Canyon University. It's a local college here, private college here in
religious private college.
Yes. And a lot of these people that I follow, friends, acquaintances, people more outside of my circle, a lot of them, it's like either they get engaged and then they graduate, or they graduate and then they get engaged right away. And it's kind of like expected. And if you're not in a position where you're serious about someone, or you're like in a relationship of any kind, you kind of feel left out of the group because all your friends are getting engaged and married. So then you kind of rush through that. Like, I know that a guy friend of mine was talking to me about the fact that he was reached out to by a girl from GCU that he knew a really long time ago. And she was like, oh, I always knew we were going to get back together. And I always knew we were going to end up married. And he kind of just read through it and was like, no, she's literally just looking for like someone to get married to real quick. So it was a very awkward situation.
Well, okay, I want to aside for a second, because we went to a school. It was not formally a Christian school.
Yeah.
But basically all the curriculum was based off of a private Christian curriculum in Tempe that a group of parents had put together because they wanted their kids to have a more rigorous Western tradition-focused education. And so the people who went to the school tended to be from religious families, very large Mormon Catholic families, mostly Mormon, I would say, given the demographic of Chandler.
Christian.
Yes, Christian in general is like a overreaching term. What pisses me off still to this day was I went to school with some truly intelligent, brilliant young women who immediately out of high school got married and started popping out babies. They did not pursue higher education. They didn't even seem to think that was a possibility. It was, my job is to start breeding and expand my religion's presence on this planet. And that deeply bothers me because I think if you're a feminist, you accept that women have different priorities in life and that it's okay to be a housewife. It's okay to be, a boss bitch CEO, and all the many faceted spectrums in between the two. But it seemed to me that the expectation was never even presented to the young women that I went to school with.
Yeah.
I would say 50% of them that was actually a possibility for them, that they could get a higher education, do something, whether it be helping the world or knowing more about, the field of astrophysics and then settling down.
What percentage of your graduating class did that, do you feel like?
I could crunch some numbers by going back to my long abandoned Facebook feed. I would say probably a third. And this is men and women. Yeah. Some of them, were Mormons. They went on missionary trips right after high school, but then got married afterwards.
I do know a lot of people that went on their mission trip. And by a lot, I mean like one or two.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Mormons for my life. That went on their mission trip and it changed them so much because they were so focused on their faith that they just got back and they were like, okay, I don't really care about higher education. Like, I'll go, but I'm going to meet other Mormons so I can get married and have that like faith with another human. So
I mean, there are other people who, who I thought were deeply religious in high school who have kind of like done a 180 and gone a completely different direction. And I find that interesting. I'm interested if you've seen anybody you knew go to college and kind of have that experience. There's one kid who I thought was super Christian who now like is very progressive and posts constantly about, different causes going on in the world.
You can be a progressive Christian.
I don't disagree,
between.
except religion doesn't play a role. It's not like Jesus told us that we have an obligation to help the poor. It is disgusting the United States refuses to help the poor.
Oh,
things like that. Yeah. So the framing of it doesn't have a religious backing, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
The religious elements have been removed from his rhetoric.
Yeah. I think in my experience, I work with a lot of Mormons. I don't even know if I go to school.
Because you said that Brophy has more of a diverse...
Brophy does have a more diverse...
population.
Yeah. And I know there are some Mormons who go to school there. But with the Mormons that I work with, I know that like they are all setting up to go on their mission trips, go to school, and probably eventually get married within the first 2 years. And I have a friend at school whose mom, I believe, grew up in Utah. And I think for her first 2 years, she ended up going to BYU, which is the big Mormon school in Utah. And she explained that it was expected of girls when they got to BYU to be married within the first 2 years. So this is like 18 to 20. You had to be married by.
So weird. You need to spend $40,000 to $60,000 a year for 2-3 years in order to get married.
Yeah.
No, but the weird thing is that like I know people that were like applying to BYU, and there's like 3 campuses, I think.
Yeah,
there's one in Hawaii and one in Utah, and I don't know where the third one is. But if you didn't, Idaho, I think it is.
Yeah.
If you didn't get into Hawaii or Idaho, you'd have to go to like the bad university in Utah. But I think they give like a lot of scholarships if you're a Mormon and you go.
Makes sense, yeah. I want to make it clear on this podcast. I know many nice, loving Mormon people. They're decent human beings. I think they have a very deeply seated belief in their faith, and I can respect that. My problem fundamentally is the lack of choice it seems a lot of individuals have. And I think a lot of religions take away choice and autonomy from individuals where they don't recognize they have alternatives. One thing I think the Amish do, which is really interesting, is having their Rumspringer, where the youth can go and kind of have wild partying vacations for a period of time after they reach maturity and decide whether or not they want to continue in the Amish faith. And that's a very different perspective that they get on the world going out. And the fact that, their religious faith even allows that, I find really interesting and compelling. But yeah, we're not bashing religions
on
like
this. Breaking Amish or something where
Breaking
they go
Amish.
on there.
I have not.
They go on that Rumspringer and Anyways, back to the podcast. I think you've kind of touched on this. Do you feel like your dating life would have been easier if you weren't going to a private school or a private Catholic school?
Yes, but I think this is the only reason why, is because I go to an all-girls school. I don't necessarily think that it's because it is a private school or even a Catholic school. I think it's genuinely just because I go to an all-girls school. It's really hard to meet guys in your grade that you would get along with. And let's see. I feel like freshman year, everyone dates everyone. So then you have to find someone that nobody else has dated before. And then you have to find someone that you actually get along with. I don't know if you guys have ever seen How to Be Single.
We went to a super small school, so we understand.
Yeah.
Like, it's very incestuous.
Yeah. 47 people graduated. You
graduated with 47. I graduated with, I think it was like 79. How big is your graduating class?
300.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
Well, I mean, I think, a lot of the bigger high schools in Arizona, they've graduating classes of 1,100, 1,400.
It's a lot.
It's very large.
Very large.
I think that's interesting because we had obviously a very similar experience. That said, I thought a lot of people did transfer into Xavier and Brophy over time. Like, it's a prestigious school. If a spot opens up, I assume a parent would take their kid out of Central and send them over.
Yes. I think freshman year, they expect up to 25% of the freshman class to transfer throughout the year or at the end of the year. And then
that's interesting.
I'm pretty sure you are not allowed to transfer into Xavier as a senior unless you have some kind of circumstance where you weren't going to school in the state or some other reason. But there are a lot of people who transfer, yes, but it's still hard to meet people. The easiest time to meet people is the first year, freshman year, because they have so many opportunities for freshmen to meet other people because they want you to have friends in high school.
This is so funny because the summer before your freshman year of high school, we were talking, like, I was like, oh, what kind of classes are you going to be taking? And I was about to be a junior. And so I was like really excited to be an upperclassman. And you were like, oh, well, I'm taking Latin and theater because those are classes that I can take with brothy boys.
Yeah.
And I remember this specifically because I was like, you fucking whore.
Damn.
I'm just kidding. I didn't think that.
I mean, I did take Latin.
We're not slut shaming slut workers.
Yes.
I did take Latin partly because it was at Brophy, but also because of other reasons such as SAT and medical things and things like that. But
oh, you nerd.
Yeah, I know.
Said in the same tone as what Naomi just said.
Yeah, what are you, tell us a little bit background. I know you're considering U of A. What major are you going to be going with?
I am thinking of going with public health because I want to eventually go into dentistry. And I know, I get a lot of my information from TikTok, which probably is not the best source. But I saw, TikTok was the first place that I heard about return of investment, which I had no idea that was a thing with your college degrees. But I learned about return of investment, and basically public health has a higher ROI than hard sciences, such as biology and chemistry. And I originally was always just going to do biology on with a pre-dentistry focus, but now you can do public health with a pre-dentistry focus. So that's something that I'm looking into. And then also, if I get to dentistry school, decide that I hate the whole thing, scrap my entire life's plan since I was 11 years old, I have something else to fall back on and more, because I know for sure that I do want to be doing healthcare when I get older. So, yeah.
It's funny you mention that because I went to high school with a guy who had known from sophomore or maybe in freshman year that he wanted to be an oral hygienist. And I was like, why do you want to be an oral hygienist? He's like, well, you see, it's the easiest way to make the most amount of money. And apparently oral hygienists have, in certain areas, really high pay for limited amounts of schooling. Like a 2-year degree can get you $160 a year. Maybe it was an anesthesiologist, oral hygienist or something. It was, very precise.
Get paid crazy amounts.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing that was learning. At 17, there's a lot of people who have no idea what they want to do, and a lot of people who have some idea, and then people like me who have an exact pinpoint of where they want to be in 10 years. And the people that I've talked to that want to be doctors, I always ask, or, anything in healthcare, I always ask why. Why do you want to be a doctor? And it's, I'd say 75% of the time because it makes a lot of money.
Oh, gross.
And I'm saying, if you're going into healthcare, if you want to be a doctor, and the only reason you're there is because you want to make money, you will be the first one to leave.
Yeah.
No, you'll also kill people.
Yeah.
We had a shared teacher who taught us physics in high school whose wife was a nurse, and he would constantly have to be tutoring his wife's friends in measurement and unit conversion because they didn't understand what a cubic centimeter of a fluid was, and kept mistaking either a cubic milliliter or for a cubic centimeter, or cubic centimeter for much smaller dosage.
Yeah.
So on multiple occasions, they would under or overdose somebody with as much as 10 times as much of what they should be actually receiving.
Way more common than you think it is. Yeah,
that's
because
crazy.
A lot of people we learned the metric system in middle school.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but we learned it pretty early. And I thought it was confusing, but our dad worked with it every single day, so he walked us through it. But it's really funny. I had a friend in high school who was a drug dealer, and the only reason why he learned the metric system conversions was because he had to pay. He had to serve out his drugs in
What, you can't be I'll give you 2/4 of a hogshead of cocaine today.
No, you definitely can, but it just makes that's the reason why you don't. Anyways, moving on from, I feel like we've kind of talked about Catholicism a lot. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about you. What do you think your best quality is?
If necessary, we can throw your bio up on our site and be single, ready to mingle.
Yeah, there you go. I would say that I am extremely organized, sometimes to a point where it's type A, very on top of things time. I love this phrase, I've never been relaxed ever, because I am never relaxed. I will just plan things so far ahead of time for no reason. But sometimes it's a bad thing, sometimes it's a good thing, because I'm always on top of things, and it's really helpful for school. That was probably one of my best qualities. Another one, though, is that I am a people person for sure. I'm really talkative. I get along well with people of all to most ages, and that's really helpful at my job now because I have to talk to people who are 6 years old and 96 years old, and just being talkative and being able to relate to everyone is really helpful. And also just going into the world, that's helpful as well.
I'm going to assume it's a little easier talking to people at your job because you're serving something they want.
That's
right?
True. That is true.
What do you do for our listeners?
So I work at a local company called Dan's Ice and Dairy. We have a creamery store. There's actually two. There's one in Levine and one in Payson. And I work at the one in Levine. We sell milk. All different types of flavors of milk. We have cotton candy flavored milk.
This is much better than she's making it sound. This is good, creamy, rich, delicious milk.
Our brother's special lady friend, Smush. What does Smush stand for? You gotta give them a little context.
Don't worry about it. Keep moving.
Okay. She came down they live up in San Francisco, and she came down for Christmas one year and bought like $75 worth of eggnog because she thought it was like so good because they only sell it at Fry's stores locally in Arizona.
Yeah. So we'd sell milk, crazy milk, and then we also do milkshakes and ice cream, which some of the milkshakes that we do are over the top, completely ridiculous, but then you can also have your classic with just whipped cream and a cherry.
How much is a trough? It's a trough of milkshake.
Like, you know how horses get like water?
We unfortunately do not sell milkshake.
If I bring a little like kitty wading pool, could you fill that up with milkshake?
You know, you'd probably have to sell your kidney to be able to afford it.
Well, I'm thinking, you see all those videos of people doing the gas rationing, putting in plastic bags. Could I bring like a gas container and have you fill it up with milkshake, keep it in my freezer for special occasions?
This is not the 7-Eleven anything
machine,
slushy container day. Bring your own container.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
No, I do think that's a cool job to have, especially at your age.
It is, but also at the same time, I don't want to give a whole backstory, so I'm like, oh, I have to go to work today. My friends say, where do you work? And I just say a dairy. And I've had so many people say that is the most random job.
It's so funny, though, because, like, thinking back, like, you, like, hear all in those movies, they're like, oh, Grandma, where'd you work when you were younger? She's like, I used to serve milkshakes. And now you can say it to your grandkids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I don't know why you don't describe it as like a creamery or an ice cream shop or something.
Yeah, just say ice cream shop.
Yeah, I should. I should start saying that.
Everyone wants to be friends with the ice cream kid. I'm deliberately cultivating a personality where I am known for making good ice cream.
I was in Sedona
no one will
Tuesday,
ever leave me.
And they were like, they had like a bunch of like lizards and snakes out like on like the side of the road, and there's this little girl just like kind of sitting there like it was her throne essentially. Like her dad was the one like running like the little like area, and I was like that kid's gonna be so popular in middle school because she's gonna be like the little girl that's like going up and being like not shying away from like the tarantula or you know what I mean. Okay, moving right along. What do you consider? We talked about your best quality. What is your worst quality?
I have to preface this by saying nobody else understands when I say it because nobody else sees it. But I am a control freak, and I'm not a control freak over other people. I don't like to. I mean, I sometimes I'm bossy, but I just put that on my resume as I'm a natural born leader.
You were.
Oh, that is such a good spin.
Right? You were an only child for like what, 8 years?
For 6 years.
6 years of your life? Yeah.
So I did get what I wanted a lot of the time.
Wait, so I met you when you were 6.
That's what I said.
You said 8.
I said 7 or 8.
I was paying attention to our guest.
Anyway.
Fuck you.
I am a control freak when it comes to myself. I always have to be in control of every single situation that I am in, but not in charge of other people, which I guess that doesn't make sense when I say it out loud. But I mean, even going back to, I want to be a dentist when I grow up. I've had that idea since I was 11, so it's 6 years that I've had this idea in my head, and I just have a feeling that I'm going to get to college and, what if I hate it? I have no backup plan, and I literally will not be able to handle it if things do not go my way.
No, it's literally, I'm the exact same way. I'm the worst when things like long-term are planned out. Like I get really anxious. Like, when you're, like a few months, it was like a few months ago, my dad turns to me and he was like, oh, I can set you up with my coworkers. And I was like, oh my God, I've gotten to that age where my parents are like, oh my God, I need to start setting you up with people. So I was like, you know, like you get that sort of anxiety because I get that sort of anxiety because like things aren't planned out like long term. And it's like, and then I have to remind myself, like, this doesn't have to be planned out. Like, I literally could just, like, live my life out of a school bus for the rest of my life.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. And I could just, like, sell my nudes on Twitter.
Right.
People make good money doing that. I know some people that make, like, 7 figures doing that every year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is your best first date experience?
This was when I was 15. It was like the first month of freshman year. I was 15. Okay. We went to a play at my school. It was actually a musical. And it was a very like high school romantic little first date. It was, we met there, we watched the musical, and he held my hand, you know, very, very high schooly. And it was just a good date. He offered to take me home, which he was able to drive at this point. He was a year older than me. And it was just really, really good. And I think the other thing with some people might disagree, but watching plays, not movies, but plays or musicals as a first date is like the best thing if you are not sure how it's going to go, because you don't have to talk. You're actually not allowed to talk. So it's like great. And the only time you can talk is during intermission and then after. I
don't think they want you doing that during movies either.
Well, the thing is that there's so many like different different people like different things. Like I know on first dates, I personally like I don't like going and sitting down at a dinner because it's like or like a lunch or anything like that because I feel like that's so much stress on the situation. Like I want to go and do something as an activity on the first date. So like, oh, like let's go shopping or like let's go hang out and go to the park. You know what I mean? And I think that's interesting because you said that you don't want to talk on the first date.
No, I didn't say that I don't want to talk.
That's exactly what you said.
It's just that when you're in high school and you aren't really sure how it's going to go, I think it is a good option. And also another thing that was like kind of special about it was that he had told me that he liked musicals and it wasn't really anything that he told anybody else.
That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard about.
Well, okay, because when you think about it, going to a Catholic school and there's a lot of extremely straight people.
They're super straight.
Yeah, it's like if you like musicals, you're gay.
Yeah.
Especially
Can I actually bash on him for a second and tell everyone why he got kicked out of Brophy?
No.
Oh, wait, isn't there a lawsuit still going on?
Oh,
there is not a lawsuit.
Okay.
Okay, back up a second. I'm really interested in what this musical was that you saw, because, like, on one hand, I could see West Side Story being romantic, but then there's also, like, the producers, and you're holding hands during, like, Springtime for Hitler or something. Do you remember what it was?
I do.
It's okay if you don't want to share.
It was Seussical.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cute.
It was like a cutesy
Dr.
thing.
Seuss?
Yeah, it's like all of the Dr. Seuss stories put into one, and I'm pretty sure, like, it's supposed to be a little boy narrating the whole thing, and he's, like, reading Cat in the Hat and Blue Fish, One Fish. I don't even know.
Red fish, blue fish, one fish, two fish.
Yeah, sure.
It's on my bedside table. What I was going to say was the last musical I saw was in DC on my senior trip. Mm-hmm. And it was very weird because it was like all the fairy tales in one like storyline. Yeah. What was the last musical you saw?
Last musical I saw, jeez. I'm trying to think if I've seen a musical in person. I've seen plays in person.
Was it the musical that we were in when I was like 3?
Maybe.
Okay, got it.
I think more recently I've just seen The Producers, which is why that was on my mind. Yeah, I mean, musicals are great. I think, you were talking about how you don't need to talk, and I think there's a lot of truth in that, because if someone invites you out on a date, most likely they're in your social circle. You already know them, right?
Especially
it's not as though you're going to go on to a first date with someone random and just ask them questions about who they are, because you already know all of that. So I think doing something that can then lead to a conversation, such as, oh, I really like that, but and then, and his costume, ripped a little, or, the wiring didn't work, or, the set fell down in the background. You have something to laugh about, a new experience that you can talk about. And I do think, plays are probably maybe a little bit better than going to see a movie, for the simple fact that, like, in many plays there's an intermission, but also, like, PDA isn't really accepted in most high school auditoriums, so he can't just casually yawn and put his arm around you without your permission.
Okay, that's kind of cute, though. Like, I knew people that, like, had sex in movie theaters in high school, so I don't think you can necessarily do that in an auditorium. I think that the little yawn
There are children at this musical!
Okay, moving right along.
Boy, Naomi really wants to get this one and done.
No, what I'm trying to, like, do, we have a lot of questions to ask, so I don't want to, like, sit
I just want a nice, natural conversation with our good friend Tazmin.
How long has it been since you've seen each other?
I don't know, a decade.
So long, since the Joel Alone story.
The Joel, oh my God. Has it been Joel Alone?
It's been Joel Alone.
What was that,
I need
like,
to come up with some new material that you can remember.
Because that was the weekend that you stayed with me when your parents were down in Tucson.
Was it?
Yeah, because I thought that was we went to go get Mexican food, and he was there, and then we were walking into the God,
I was a shit in college.
We were walking in. It was like Arizona Mills that had that Mexican restaurant. Yeah.
Yes, now I
think
remember.
that's when it was.
Oh yeah, we met there. Remember?
Yeah.
They were late.
Yeah, I do remember that. You remember?
No.
We have not yet mentioned the name of our brother on this podcast.
Oh,
I don't think.
Yeah.
Were they there?
I think he needs to.
I'm pretty sure he was there.
They arrived late. They arrived
been,
like 20 minutes late. We'd already sat down and gotten our, I think,
didn't
stuff
think
ordered.
she was there. I thought it was just him.
Was it? Okay.
Because I thought he was playing off of it, like the Joel Alone idea.
Oh.
Yeah.
Our brother with my identical sardonic sense of humor.
We even talked to him. We went up to see him in San Francisco in March, and I literally have talked to him once since then. I'm not even kidding. It was like a 3-minute conversation too. Like, I just called it. Like, I literally don't talk to him for like 6 months at a time.
But this is actually good. It's like dating somebody. Well, you always have things to talk about, right? You go these long periods. If you don't spend time, if you live with your parents, you always know what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, if you only talk to them once a week, suddenly you have new exciting things you can share with them.
You talk to them that often?
Our parents?
No.
No, I'm saying less frequently is better in this case. There's more things you can share. It was a terrible analogy.
Do you...
Let us never remember the time Joel said, it's like dating my brother. Good times.
Do you see any problems with our modern dating culture?
I would say, I don't think I know what modern dating culture really is, but I would say that it's, you know what? As I'm saying this, I think that it's maybe the Catholic school teachings being projected through me. But I think that relationships now, especially at a younger age, are way more sex-centric. I think that I'm not saying, you can't do whatever you want with your body, but there's a lot of, like, hookup culture is now something that was never really existing before, definitely not in, like, our parents' generation. So I'd say that.
That seems... I haven't heard that perspective, but I think there's something to that. For the simple fact that for the longest time, marriages were of convenience, right? You know, I'm going to marry my daughter off and our family bloodlines will mingle. Or I'm going to marry this person so I can have kids. Or, I'm going to marry this person because, we didn't use protection and suddenly, there's a baby in the picture. But one of the only unique things you can get from a relationship is sexual activity, right? I'm not saying you can only get in a relationship, but if you want, kind of a consistent source of that, that's one of the best ways to do it. But everything else, whether it's a shoulder to cry on or, someone who can financially support you, you don't necessarily need a relationship for. And I don't know how new that phenomenon is. Like, women have been in the workplace for, almost half a century now. But it's definitely more novel in human civilization that you can be your own independent person existing by yourself without needing other people to survive and thrive.
And I think that started when birth control became popularized, because I feel like before you couldn't make that choice whether you're not a whale, because whales have trapdoors in their vaginas, so they can decide if they're going to get pregnant or not. So
yeah, that's one of the many reasons Joel is not a whale.
You can you can decide now, I'm going to be on birth control and I don't want to get pregnant, and you also have the option, let's just say that there is a fetus in you that you don't necessarily want to be holding inside of you, there is the option of then getting an abortion, proceeding to that.
What?
Yeah. I know, like, talking about Catholicism, like, growing up, a lot of my friends who are Catholic, they told me, like, oh, I'm going to wait until marriage. I'm going to, like, my mom will never let me be on birth control. I know I started birth control when I was 16 for a variety of reasons, because it's not just birth control. It's like it can help with your acne. It can help with all these things. Do your friends / you, like, I know your parents' perspective on this, but, like, what did the Catholicism play a role in birth control in your friend group? Like, is there any weirdness about that? Or,
you know, at school, there are a lot of girls who are on birth control for various reasons. And taking from teachings at school, birth control is the absolute worst thing that you could do for a relationship. You need to, if you are married and you don't want to have kids, there's natural family planning, which is basically like not having sex for a period of time because you don't want to have kids.
It's like during your cycle, if you're not ovulating, you can have sex, but when you're ovulating, you don't have sex.
Yes, yeah. But,
it's like you went to a Catholic school, but didn't have to spend $12,000 this semester.
I had a very relaxed teacher this past year for my theology class, but I know that there was a male teacher who had a more kind of question and answer type of class, and he basically told a lot of girls who are on birth control that they were going to hell.
Nice.
Yeah.
Also, it's really cool that a teacher knows everything about teen girls' birth control.
Obvious.
And takes a active interest. Oh my God,
let's talk about this. You said you have a male teacher. Oh my God, that got so spicy. That was so gross. Let's talk about uniforms, because I had to wear a uniform, you had to wear a uniform, you had to wear a uniform. Yeah. Let's talk about uniforms and male teachers or male people in your life. Because I used to see what happened when I was in high school. I went from school to, like, either I'd have practice or I'd go to the gym. And when I went to the gym, like, it wasn't just like a school gym. It was like, it was an actual, like, grown-up gym. Like, so I had to walk through in my uniform to the, like, locker room, and men would just stare at me.
Yeah, the gym is already a horrible place for a 16-year-old girl. I cannot imagine.
So,
well, Naomi really she saw the Avengers movie, and she wanted to play the Hulk.
Right.
But, like, she wanted to be so big that they could just paint her green rather than having to do all the CGI. And she figured she'd be a natural shoe-in, because that CGI is expensive, right?
Yeah.
And I think at some point you were like, I'm not really into the Avengers anymore. I'm more of a DC cinematic universe person, so that dream fell off. But yeah, that was the original intent.
Okay, wearing a uniform is...
Can you describe your uniform?
Okay, let's see. My uniform now is either a blue or white polo, or we have button-ups, which nobody wears.
Yeah.
And a variety of different sweatshirts, all different colors, and then we have a blue plaid skirt. With...
Like, you're all Scottish.
And it has to... Originally, the rule was it had to be 3 inches above the middle of your kneecap, and that was the...
Not below.
Not below. That was the shortest that it could
shortest.
be.
Okay. I thought it was like minimum is 3 inches. Okay, thank you.
And then it changed, and now our skirts have to be to the middle of the kneecap. That's the shortest it can be, but nobody follows that, and nobody really monitors it. But there are only a few male teachers at the school that I go to, but... I know, for example, my homeroom teacher was he was like 35. He just came from teaching at, I think, Maricopa County Community College. Is that even a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we had to do online school for the first part of the semester, the administration was basically making sure that students were in uniforms on the Zoom call. Like, you didn't have to wear your skirt, but you had to wear your Xavier shirt. And he told us that he didn't really care because he didn't feel comfortable as a adult grown man telling a bunch of 16-year-old girls in their bedrooms to stand up to show him what they were wearing. And and he was like, that is just not something that I'm going to do.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And then we would have uniform checks throughout the day, and he would just say, you know, I'm not going to be checking it. I'm not going to be getting you in trouble, but just know that if there are other teachers that are more strict about the uniforms, there is a uniform check today. But there are some teachers like that. On the other hand, one thing that was written into our handbook is we have these days called sweens. So you pay $2, and you get to wear sweatpants or jeans. The only rule to this is that you cannot wear a white shirt. So any club shirt that you have, you cannot wear a white shirt. And I had the dean of students as my substitute teacher for a class last year because one of my teacher was on maternity leave. So she was our substitute teacher for almost 2 months. And one day we were just talking about the handbook, and we actually asked her, why are we not allowed to wear white shirts on swing days? And she addressed it very delicately and said, we have a lot of male staff at this school, and girls like to wear brightly colored undergarments. And these club shirts are t-shirts, and they can be see-through.
You know, poison dart frogs have bright colors, but the bright colors are to ward off predators, not to attract them.
I'm not surprised by anything that you've said because I had similar conversations with teachers that I had at school. But something that does surprise me is the fact that women at your school actually wore bras because I only wore sports bras to school.
Well, yeah.
So wearing like a full bra was like a full like cupped like underwire bra would be so uncomfortable.
No, there's both.
Okay,
but it wasn't about the type of bra. It was just the fact that they are brightly colored and they could be.
I just jumped to like brightly covered like Victoria's Secret like neon yellow or like neon pink or whatever. Anyways, what I was gonna say is that my high school experience was we had a stricter uniform. It sounds like than you guys did. We weren't allowed to wear sweatshirts. We had to go to a specific uniform store. All of our polo shirts had to have the school crest on them. I had to wear
specific hairstyles, specific types of jewelry that women and men could wear.
We couldn't wear excessive amounts of makeup. We couldn't have a different colored hair. Like it had to be natural looking hair color. We had to wear ankle socks, black dress shoes, and our skirts had to be touching our knees. Yeah. And there was very few it was more enforced in middle school than anything, but there's very few teachers that actually enforced it in high school. Like, if it was getting a little short, obviously they'd say something. But I know, like, my mom went to Catholic high school in San Francisco, and she said that there was girls, like, they had boys come up to the fence every single day, and these girls would, like, hike up their skirt and, like, roll them up. Like, I knew people in high school that would do that for whatever reason. They said it was more comfortable. I was like, I don't see how that's more comfortable getting tighter around the waist. But no, we actually did end up having, like, after I graduated, I heard a lot of stories of people that were either there was inappropriate interactions or inappropriate relationships that were happening between male teachers and female students. I haven't heard yet anything about a female teacher and a male student, or a female or a male.
Yeah, I don't know how, like, common this phenomenon is outside of Arizona, but in Arizona, Mormon missionaries will wear khaki pants, nice dress shoes, and typically white button-down or polo shirts, and bike around going on proselytizing trips to neighborhoods. They'll park their bike, they'll knock on people's doors, walk up and down streets, trying to, just spread the word. But the boys' uniform at our school looked almost exactly like Mormon missionaries. And so every so often I'd just be biking home and someone would be like, "Mormon!" as they were driving past. Which is like a weird thing to say. Like, if you hate Mormons, shout, something offensive or, throw something. Jeez.
No, that's actually like, the Jeep wave that all those Jeep drivers do. Oh, yeah. It's kind of like, Mormon! And you're like, Mormon! Back.
I just don't understand it because it's like a kid who's like reading a picture book with his parents and like, that's a doggy, that's a bear. It's like, oh boy, you can recognize the existence of peoples. But yeah, it's just a weird look. The option also, because their school colors were black, white, and red, was you could wear a red polo shirt. And I did that for a while in middle school, except there was a Target across the street. And I walked in every so often and people would confuse me for a Target employee. And I looked like 11 years old, 12 years old. Like, obviously.
You did look really young for really long. Yeah.
But yeah, they were like, oh, I guess they're hiring Target employees younger and younger. Huh.
Well, by the time I got to school, they had changed the uniform so much that I think you could wear red, white, or black polos in high school. I only had the option of wearing a white or black polo shirt or a white button up, and that was the only options. And you only wore button ups on like game days. Like if you were a person that was in sports, you'd like wear it on a game day or a competition day.
So I mean, it's glad to know the universal shared hatred of plaid skirts and weird overly strict dress codes.
It's like so disgusting to me because like people like that I know that are male or female have this like perception that like the schoolgirl fantasy.
Yeah.
And it disgusts me now because I'm like, I had to do that. Like, I think it always disgusted me because it like kind of has that like rooted sense of like pedophilia.
Yeah.
But then there's also the added benefit of like, oh shit, I had to do that for so long. Like I was like, it was like 4th grade to senior year that I had to wear a school skirt.
Yeah.
So it was like really gross to me that it was even like considered.
See, I don't know, like, that seems like a really outdated trope to me. Like, I don't know if that's as common. If anything, I'd say it'd be like a bunch of creepy 50 and 60-year-old like dads at student games being like, yeah, schoolgirls or something. I don't know if that's something.
No.
Okay.
No.
I did not have conversations with my male friends. They're like, look at how attractive all the girls at our school are in these uniforms we see them in every
like
day.
I knew people that went to our school that were like, oh, I could never get into that. But people that didn't go to our school were into it.
It's definitely, it's only people who don't go to your school. And
that's fair.
People that didn't have to deal with uniforms in high school.
But I would say that girls in school uniforms are still very highly sexualized by men of all ages. Perhaps women, I don't know.
That's an interesting question. If women are like
if they have
guys
similar sexual desires,
khaki
fantasies.
pants and polo shirts with sweat stains under the arms,
Gross.
Also, I would say that, I don't know, maybe this is something that dissuades relationships, but wearing those thick uniforms, I'm sure long skirts, we had to wear, long pants pretty much year round. It's hot in Arizona.
Yeah.
Our schools, even if they're air conditioned, can get, 70 degrees, 80 degrees if, the AC's not working as well as it should be. So, like, you just feel sticky and gross and nasty all the time.
That was the thing. Like, I, as a woman in high school, like, you were kind of made fun of if you wore pants. And I don't know if you even have that option at your school.
We do not.
But like it gets
pants were invented by the devil.
We were allowed to wear pants and shorts and skirts, but the vast majority of the girls wore skirts. And because you were made fun of if you were to wear pants, like you were called butch or like just awful names. You know what I mean? And so you were kind of dissuaded from it. But in the winter, like, this, you've worn a school skirt, like, it gets freaking cold.
Yes,
you have to wear, like, sweatpants and then, like, change out of them when you got to school.
Yeah, and actually, the thing about that is my school, you are not allowed to take your sweatpants off in the hallway. You have to do it in the bathroom. Even if you're wearing something underneath, you're wearing a skirt on top, you can't just stop in the middle. I guess it's weird, but, like, in front of your locker, you can't just take your pants off and put them into your locker.
The issue when I was biking to school, because, it's 3 miles each way, it got a little shorter, halfway through my school career because the school moved closer to our house. But you get sticky and sweaty once you get on site. And I really wanted to, go over in shorts and a T-shirt and change on site. They would not let me in school grounds not wearing the uniform.
It was in the handbook.
So, like, literally, I biked to work with khaki pants on and always would have, like, a nice, like, smear of bicycle grease on the side at the bottom of the cuff and wearing, like, an undershirt. And then, like, throw on another shirt over that to walk into the school. I'd have to, like, fold the collar back and look all pristine, wipe myself down with a cloth or something, then go to the bathroom, take off the shirt, take off the undershirt, and put the other one back on.
So it's just a sweaty boy.
I'm just a sweaty boy. I am a slippery individual. No, but like I think there's lots of issues with the uniforms. I understand why administrators want to use them. I think that they solve some of the issues, but at the same time, I don't think they're nearly as perfect as administrators would want people to think, and I think there's a lot of drawbacks to them.
Yeah, I personally like wearing a uniform. My uniform's pretty comfortable, and I don't have to worry about what I'm wearing every day, so I like that.
Yeah, I think that's
tell them
nice.
what you do. I don't know if this is a known fact about you.
What do you do?
I have no idea.
You told me, I think this was last year. No, I think it was your sophomore year.
That was last year.
Oh my God. It was sometime before COVID.
We invited you on so that Naomi could tell you stories about your lived experience.
It was sometime before COVID, and we were like doing that. Like, you know how every so often we have those nights where we just send videos back and forth of us like ranting or talking about a certain subject, like on Snapchat. And I was like, why are you putting on your uniform? I thought you had a school event.
Oh, yeah. So sometimes, I don't do this as much anymore because it's like, it sometimes gets uncomfortable, but I know a lot of other girls that do this too, is we have to wear shorts under our skirts anyway, so you just go to sleep wearing your school polo and your shorts so that when you wake up in the morning, all you have to do is put your skirt on.
And leave.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's actually really nice.
See, the thing is that when I was in high school, I'd get up at like 6:30 every morning, get up, wash my face, do my makeup, put on my uniform, eat breakfast. I knew people that rolled out of bed, didn't even put their hair up in a bun. Like, it was still in a bun that they slept in, and like grabbed a granola bar and left.
Yeah. I wake up at 6.
Yeah.
But
you also have a longer commute than I did.
That's true.
So, do you see yourself settling down or getting married?
In the future, yes.
Yeah, not right now. I'm not asking you for like next week. You met the man of your dreams.
Let's give some context to this. We've done an episode where we discuss like the decline in marriage rates, decline in birth rates, decline of people in committed long-term relationships. And one of the things we asked our last guest was his perspectives on this, because both of us don't feel that really anytime in the next few years we plan to have kids or settle down. It seems like it feels like a weird goal. It's like, I'm going to predict that someone else will fall in love with me and want to spend their life with me within this time frame.
A lot of people just settle and they say that. They're like, by 30, I'm going to be married. And then they like settle and then they're unhappy later on in their life because they didn't wait for the right person.
I should have drawn up more marriage pacts with people when I was younger.
I have like 3 going right now.
Nice. But so I guess our question is,
Dora, I got
you. Are you interested in the whole shebang? There are considered life markers of, settling down with someone, getting married to someone, having kids with someone. Are all 3 of those things on your radar at some point?
I think absolutely.
Okay.
And I think sometimes I really have this debate about whether or not marriage is just a piece of paper. Like, is it just you go down to the courthouse, you both sign something, a judge or witness signs something, and then you're married, here's your paper, because you can get married without any love in the relationship. And so I do want to get married, I do want to have kids, I do want to settle down, but I think at the same time I sometimes have a little bit of a crisis where I'm like, why am I doing this? It's just a piece of paper, it doesn't mean anything, it's more about the bond. Do I really need to get married? Because can I just be like a life partner with someone? But then all of the things that have been written into the law about just the fact that being married is easier than being single. I mean, I know for like tax purposes, which
100%,
and health insurance and things like that. So yes, I do see myself getting married in the future.
I did a paper on this in college, and the historical precedent for giving benefits to married people is argued it was to encourage people to have kids. It was like, unless we incentivize people, the birth rate's going to decline, the future of Western civilization is going to be in crisis unless we, give specific incentives. And this was also the reason why so many people who were bigots, but smart bigots were like, oh, well, gay people, we shouldn't allow them to marry because, they're never going to be able to have kids, ignoring the fact that gay people can have kids if they're lesbians, and the fact that gay people can adopt, but also the fact that so many heterosexual relationships don't have children.
Right.
And, you can be 95 years old and get married to somebody, and there will be no kids coming out of that arrangement, but you can get better tax benefits.
No. If you're a 95-year-old man getting married to a 30-year-old woman, you could still have kids in a relationship.
That's the dream. That's the dream.
That was Mary, Dad's friend from the Air Force, who got married when she was 14 to a 40-year-old. And her dad was...
the difference in age between a 90 and a 30-year-old. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
70 when she was born.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about, a life partner, a bond or something.
Yeah.
I don't understand relationships with huge age gaps. I think they can work, but automatically an eyebrow raises for me when I hear about, marriages with, more than a 10-year age gap. I'm like... I feel there might be coercion or power imbalances somewhere.
Yeah, I told you about that girl that I met in in college. It was my first semester at ASU. and she was in my English class, and she was telling me that she was on Hinge. And this was like my first kind of experience with Hinge. And she described it as, oh, I'm just looking for someone that's older, because she said that she was more interested in older men. And I thought like, oh, 30s, because she was like 2 years older than me. So she was already in her 20s. And she celebrated her 21st one of the weeks that we were in class together. And so I thought like 30s. No, she meant 50s, 60s. And I was like, okay, I want to talk to her about this. Why does she have this perspective on men? And she said that it was because they were like more interesting to talk to, which, okay, that makes sense. But also they're more financially stable. Like if you go out with someone that's 16, he's going to be using his daddy's money or mommy's money.
Yeah.
And he's not going to have a lot to talk about. He's going to be like, yo, did you see those big waves down there at the beach today?
You like Transformers? Mark Wahlberg's my hero.
Megan Fox, so hot. But like if you talk to someone that is in their 50s or 60s, they have a lot more life experience. But then I was talking about this with my dad, but because she said that this guy that she was dating at the time was older than her dad. And I was like, that's a little weird. And I was like, okay, that's kind of different, because like my parents are a lot older than like my friends' parents, just because like they got married later, they had me later. And so like I was like, okay, it could just be that her parents were really young when they had her. No, it was like they were my parents' age and he was still older than that. So then I was talking about it with my dad, and my dad was like, oh, that's literally like a sugar baby, like sort of like no matter what. But then on top of that, he was like, they would literally have nothing in common. Like, if you think about it, like Joel and I don't have a lot in common because of our age difference, and it's just 5 years. Yeah. Because, like, there's just so much technology and things that happened in those 5 years. Like, I had a phone since I was in 4th grade for a variety of reasons. He didn't get his first phone until, like, junior year of high school.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so it's, like, it's so many different, like, he would be talking about, like, oh, I was in Knob or some shit like that. Like, okay, not that bad. He wasn't that old. But, like, she would be like, well, today I made a TikTok. Like, she actually went viral on TikTok because she was like, when you can use the the student discount and the senior discount when you're buying groceries. Yeah, it was so freaking weird. And, like, she gets asked all the time if, like, that's her dad or, like, her grandpa. And she's like, no, it's my boyfriend.
Yeah. Steak for the sir, and what will your daughter be having?
Yeah, I, like... had this guy, I think I mentioned this on an earlier episode, but he was like 62 and he hit on me on Hinge, and he was like, let me take you to Disneyland. And like, I was like, you can literally be my fucking grandfather. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
It was so weird. It was so weird.
It is weird to me. I mean, I haven't had experience with anybody older than like 2 years older than me, just because I am a minor.
Yeah.
And, but my mom would tell me, she told me one time, I don't even know how she met this guy. He was like 40 and she was like early 20s. And I think they were working together, which is even worse. But he was a doctor, and he asked her to go out to dinner one time. And she just assumed that it was some type of like work thing and that other people would be there. She got there and it was a date. And I was
Did she dress for the occasion?
I have no idea. But I was like, what did you guys talk about? And she said, work. And that was it.
Yeah.
Because they had like a 20-year age difference.
That seems mildly soul-crushing.
Yeah.
So, pull any fun parts out of people?
I actually pulled a key out of someone last week.
Actually, going off of that, though, my grandpa was... I can't remember. He's a very good judge of character. He can usually read people within the first 5 minutes of meeting them.
Yeah, I love him so much.
And he's almost 95% accurate. And he can even, like, when he meets couples and sees how they interact, he can, like, have a trajectory for
So he's a psychic.
I mean, sure, you could say that. But he told me, you never want to marry someone that you work with or even has the same occupation, like, realm as you, because that's all you will talk about.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. And
no, because, like, even, like, in college, like, if you have a different major than somebody else, you can be like, oh, my gosh, like, I learned about stem cells today or something like that. And they would have no idea. And they'd be like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. I think that's really good. This is actually the same man that I invited him. I think he tagged along with you to my 18th birthday party, and he brought a bottle of wine for my parents, and he ended up drinking the entire thing himself.
Probably.
Quality.
Probably.
I'm thinking there's this tweet. We need to be better at attributing humor that I find online. There's this tweet. It's like, girls just want a guy who's excited to tell them when they get home all the facts they learned from podcasts today. That's the kind of significant other I want to be.
Podcast?
Oh my gosh. Don't even get me started.
Joel, can I ask you today why you liked a tweet that says, my advice, get you a wife who is much smarter and hotter than you?
Who was that? Not from Male
I
Himbo?
need a screenshot. It's from Issy Bayer-Breen.
I don't remember this. Okay. I found that whole tweet deeply ironic. Yeah, it's just like, hey, this is how you win the game. Score more points than the other team. No,
this is the
unfortunately,
same man that referred to. He says, ironically, I don't think it was. He won a basketball bracket. And he said, I don't know much about basketball, but he said, I know that they make baskets. And he said, oh, I appreciate how many, or like, I knew how many goals they were going to make or something like that. And I was like, God.
Unfortunately, I would say a large portion of what tickles my fancy on Twitter is...
I hated that.
That makes me chuckle. Is that better? Is like people saying deeply ironic things, and I'm sure at some point in the future somebody will like go back through my tweet history and be like, Joel, that's deeply offensive." And I'm like, "Well, first off, I did not intentionally like that. If it's deeply offensive,
it's like
because my finger slips all the time, and I'll be like, no, I did not mean to like that." But then second, it's like, no, it's ironic meme humor. You don't understand.
I think it's really funny that you can like go through it. Like, I don't know if you've had this experience, but like when my friends are going through it, like with a guy or something, I can tell that they're going through it by the likes that their tweets or whatever. Yeah. So like I know men in my life that will go through like their girlfriend or like their ex-girlfriend's tweets and be like, oh, she's going through it right now. No. I'm doing so much better in this.
What you get out of relationships is actually two things we've learned on this podcast. It's sex and someone who will like all your tweets.
Yep.
Which, hey, that's an expensive service.
Do you want to do a lightning round?
You want to do a lightning round?
Yeah, let's do a lightning round.
I heard Tazmin wanted to subject us to something.
Let's do a lightning round and then we'll do that.
Okay, let's do a lightning round.
Okay, lightning round. Dog or cat?
Dogs.
Film everyone needs to watch.
Dogs. Purpose.
She literally told me to fucking do this. She goes, watch Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Perks of Being a Wallflower.
I sobbed. I literally sobbed because I saw it once when I was a lot younger, but like obviously you don't understand the plot when you're like 8 or something.
Yeah.
I watched it again and I sobbed.
It was probably top 3 movies that I've cried to the most in my entire life. And I've cried in every single movie theater I've ever been in since I was 12. So this is saying a lot. This is like, there's one above it that I sobbed uncontrollably. And then this one, I was watching it at home in my bed alone at night and was sobbing and also talking to my computer and the characters on the screen. So
I think one of the last notable movies that I sobbed to was The Wedding Planner with Jennifer Lopez, because in one of the last scenes, this is going to sound really terrible, he was taking out all of the green M&Ms or something because she like thought that they were healthier. And I was like, no one's ever going to do that for me. No one's ever going to be that considerate for me. And
this is a really long lightning round.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite ice cream that you like to make at your job?
We make a salted caramel shake, which also, since I started working there, I've started calling caramel, and I don't know who I am. But that's my favorite one. It's a salted caramel shake with caramel drizzle, Cracker Jacks, a Twix, and a pretzel. It's delicious.
You want to go into healthcare because of all the guilt you have for what you've done to people?
Yeah.
Probably. No, I'm just ensuring that I have a job in the future.
So that's actually really smart. You talking about pronouncing different things different ways. I know that your mom has a little bit of an accent.
Yes.
And so she says tomato and she says basil or
Basil.
Basil, there we go. So Joel actually likes to name all of his plants that he brings home from the nursery. And he said, I'm going to name my basil plant Basil. And so every time he says it, I just think about your mom saying it. And I'm like, oh my God.
I was thinking like a English detective.
Yeah.
Who solves crimes. Yeah. But also he smells nice. Yeah, and you can chop off his limbs and use it in your cooking.
I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, subject us to something. She actually reached out to me earlier this week when we were planning this podcast, and she said, I want to do the game show this week. And I said, okay, fine. Joel approved.
We've done a couple of game shows so far, and they've all been amazing successes. We've heard everyone loves them, so you got to really razzle and dazzle.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure.
Do you have a theme song?
Dun, 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 dun. Theme song.
Excellent. Beautiful. Yes! Memeable. Please. Incredible. We're gonna clip that and put that on our Instagram so people will know why they should listen to this.
Okay, so the name of the game is Guess That Aphrodisiac.
No?
You know how we literally just didn't talk about sex, even though it's a sex and relationships podcast, because you're a minor?
Okay, but this is
aphrodisiacs can make you a better communicator in your relationship. Overall. Yeah, that's what they do.
Communicator.
God.
Anyway, so aphrodisiacs are foods, drugs, or drinks that stimulate sexual desire. This is the definition that I found online, but there's also
No, it's not sexual, it's schmexual. We're using TikTok terms now.
Sorry, gotcha. So basically, I have 3 questions for each of you. Whoever gets the most correct wins.
Oh, poop.
I will finally be the ultimate guy sibling.
There you go. And so, okay.
I'll be top guy.
I will give you a description, and then I also have bonus clues if you get stuck, and then you have to guess the aphrodisiac.
I want to go first.
We're going to expect all of our guests come up with as much content as you are. This is amazing.
Okay, I'm going to alternate, though, so it's fair.
Okay.
Right, so here we go. The first one. Do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I do a steal if she doesn't get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is very...
Is this Science Bowl?
Oh, God.
This is very...
I knew someone that was on the ASU Science Bowl team.
I was on the ASU Science Bowl team.
No! Okay, then I know 2 people.
Sorry, go ahead. We're tramping on your moment.
That's all right. I have to put my game show host voice on. Okay.
Hey, welcome, everyone.
All right. These popular snack nuts in flavors ranging from salted to honey roasted or spicy dill pickle are rich in fatty acids that are essential to producing testosterone. The scent alone is rumored to get both men and women in the mood.
Cashews, because they get me in the mood.
That was way too personal.
You said they smell so I'm thinking cashews.
So that is incorrect.
Fuck.
Joel, for the steal.
See, I'm thinking sunflower seeds, but you did say nuts, so I'm going to say peanuts.
No.
Really?
What is it?
It is almonds.
That was my first guess.
Almonds.
Should have gone with that.
She's typing
She's looking
to
so
let
disappointed.
herself
I
know
just
that
want to
nobody
know
won.
who wins. Okay.
Joel, this is all you.
Mm-hmm.
This leafy green has a bold and spicy flavor.
It's marijuana.
Often used on pizza and in salad.
Arugula.
Yes.
I know my leafy greens.
That was so much easier.
No, they were the same. Okay, next. This fresh and crunchy snack, often enjoyed with peanut butter and raisins, contains pheromones.
Celery.
Okay, yeah. Got it right.
Apparently celery juicing was a big thing.
It is because
it
you know what I heard? That they have negative calories.
Well, it's not that it's negative calories, that it takes more energy to process the
but if
fiber.
you're juicing it.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, because
then
I thought that when you ate it, it took more calories to... I don't know why we're discussing this because I feel like it'd be really harmful to someone that had an eating disorder.
I heard once that you can do 0-calorie brownies. If you roll them up to a single calorie ball and eat it, it takes more energy to thaw. It's a frozen brownie. If you freeze your brownies, it takes more energy to thaw it than you get from the brownie. So it's a very tiny morsel. But
we do not recommend doing this. We do not support eating disorders.
Any of the things we suggest involving nitroglycerin, acids, ice cream should not be attempted at home.
We do support vaccinations, though.
True. Not at-home vaccinations.
Joel?
Okay, next one.
It's me.
Yes,
it's me.
It is.
Mustard. Oh.
I don't
Gooey
get
duck.
Alrighty. This starchy root, let me finish on this one because there's a little twist.
There's a lot of starchy roots.
Often used to make French fries, is rich in minerals that boost energy and fight aging. Its phallic resemblance and soft texture when cooked is rumored to be an extremely beneficial aphrodisiac. And I can give you a bonus clue because this one's a bit of a doozy.
Wait,
Is it a sweet potato?
Yes.
Okay.
It is a sweet potato.
Yeah, you wanted to throw me off with the French fry comment. I'm on my sweet potato knowledge. On my A game.
Next one. This bubbly beverage has a sweet yet tangy flavor. The true aphrodisiac effects of this beverage have to do with setting the mood rather than its bubbles. Consumption of this drink can lower inhibitions and increase subjective desire.
Champagne.
Yes. There you go. We're 2 for 2. This one's the tiebreaker, Joel. This green pitted fruit has been the center of every Insta-foodie's dream for the past 3 years. This food contains minerals and vitamins that boost energy and testosterone levels.
Let me think about this. I don't spend a lot of time on Instagrams. This is very, very difficult.
Oh my God. Says
if
the person
I were a fruit that had a pit, what would I call myself? Jerry? No, that's not really a name of a fruit. Javier? No. Avocado.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that you are conspiring to make me lose.
Here's that $20 I promised you. Thanks for letting me show up my sister once more. Thanks for not making this a swimming competition.
Yeah, so we have a winner. Top guy is Joel Guy.
Excellent. I'm going to make a trophy now.
I am Top Gun. Look at these guns.
I do think we need to have a trophy that says top guy, best guy, and we need to pass it back and forth as we alternatively win competitions. By which I will always have this trophy because Naomi will never win a competition.
What are we going to do if we have a guest on that, gets the trophy? Are they the top guy?
No. Second top guy. Top Guy 2. Okay. Sequel to Top Gun.
I feel like this is getting too complicated.
Top Guy Maverick. That was a great segment. Thank you for educating our listeners. I don't know, does any of that have any basis in fact, or is these more of mythological wives' tales?
I found a lot of these on a BuzzFeed article, so probably not, but...
So I got a lot of information from my essays in high school.
TikTok earlier. I feel we're knocking BuzzFeed now. I gotta say, BuzzFeed News has some amazing journalism, and having read the New York Times pretty regularly for the past 5 years, I don't think the quality of New York Times columns are as good as TikTok. TikTok comes from a lot more pure of a place.
That I read.
Less fact checking though.
The earliest articles I read were probably BuzzFeed because I was reading those when I was 10. Yeah.
This is a cultural difference I cannot get behind.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Naomi, is it time for us to call this wraps?
I think we're ready.
Okay.
Wow.
It has been awesome having you, Tazmin. Is there anything that you want to plug before we close out? Any causes? Do you need more followers for your Insta and Twitter handles? Should we follow your goofy TikTok Fortnite dances?
No, but...
don't follow her TikTok. Don't follow her TikTok.
My Instagram, Tazmin.Smith.
Tazmin, Tazmin.
Yes. Make me an influencer so I can post pictures of my avocados.
I think that you underestimate how many listeners we have.
I have no idea.
I think you overestimate how many listeners we have because we will certainly not be making you an influencer here at Date These Guys podcast.
I'll say this. One of my friends I was talking to a couple months ago was like, oh yeah, my brother has a Twitter account where he draws really crappy art in Microsoft Paint and then posts it. And I immediately went and followed him love all of his tweets. I'm just saying, Tazmin could find her new most loyal follower.
Yeah.
There's someone out there who loves your style of humor and branding.
There you go.
And your Juicy Couture.
My Juicy Couture.
I love that for you.
Follow my Instagram to find out what we're talking about.
Yep.
I guess I need to follow your Instagram. Well, thank you again for tuning in to this episode of Date These Guys. We hope you've learned something about the rigors of dating in school, high school, Catholic school, all of the schools.
Joel will be seeing Tazmin in another 5 years. It will be scheduled.
Yes. We have a saying in our household, once in a blue Tazmin. Currently she's wearing red, so I guess it's going to be red Tazmin.
See you again when it's blue.
See you again when it's blue.
Yep.
Yeah. We hope you enjoy your weeks. Stay safe. Stay sexy.
Consent is key, guys. Consent. Thank you.